Hi, Dr. Bill here.
Hi, Dr. Bill. How are you?
Good. Considering everything? Always try to have an optimistic attitude toward whatever we're dealing with.
We match that. Dr. Bill, it's Bill Ryan here. How are you doing? Good to speak to you.
Good. I can pick up the phone, too, so you'll get a little better sound. So, how are you doing today in your worldwide travels?
Well, at the moment I'm feeling uncomfortably close to the Ukraine, and we're very interested to know what news you might have for us here.
Well, I can rearrange my list of topics here because I have 4.
Okay, before you do that, let me do an introduction so have that on the record here. So what we have is it's Sunday, November 15th, 2009, and this is Carrie Cassidy and Bill Ryan from Project Camelot. We're on the air here with Dr. Bill Deagle, and we're going to be doing an update. And there's so much happening, and I know, Bill, that you have a lot of areas to cover that you've outlined, specifically 3 different areas. And so I'd be glad to hear you go through each one of those.
Yes, I think I'll start off with the H1N1. And I know there's a little confusion because sometimes people will even call either after my radio show on Genesis. They don't understand the difference between the Mexican flu and the Ukrainian flu, and they're making confusion thinking that the flu that's going on in Ukraine is different. It is. It's probably genetically changed, but it's still an H1N1 flu in 99.9% probability. What happened is that the powers that be, I call it the PTB, decided some years ago that there were too much population on the planet. That goes way back to Malthus, etc. And they knew at some point that science was going to cross the Rubicon and human lifespan was going to extend dramatically. And they decided back in the 1970s, with reports like the NSM report and the reports since then up to Global 2000, that one of the primary concerns they had was not the proliferation of nuclear weapons, but the population growth, which, to be honest with you, is fallacious because at the rate we're going to start seeing population reduction within about 12 years worldwide, for a number of reasons. Decreased fertility, increased pollution, just the fact that populations, when they get in an advanced culture, they don't just reproduce, they do other things with their life. If they live to be 100 or 120, they're productive citizens, and the idea would be to keep people productive longer. One of the biggest problems in our civilization is we don't honor the elderly, and the elderly don't stay as healthy as they used to. In countries like Japan, the elderly are considered like a national monument. And in China and other civilizations, the wisdom of the elderly is considered essential to the survival of the civilization. Because I belong to the Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine, I'm also privy to technologies that are here or are coming very soon. And to give an example of some of the things that are here now, we have the capacity right now through laboratories in Atlanta and Florida. We can draw your bloods. We can also do this in a lab affiliated with Dr. David Steenblock down in Tijuana, Mexico. We can draw your bloods, multiply your stem cells billions of times, bank them for, if necessary, centuries, and give them back to you with growth factors that can convert them in your own body to brain cells, nerve cells, muscle cells, and we can do this today. So we're only probably a couple of years away from being able to grow whole organ systems and not only slow aging, but reverse it. So the globalists know this, and in fact, it actually could probably be done for relatively minimal cost because it's not really expensive to do a lot of these things. So in a sense, because they've got this modus that most of the globalists believe they are the keepers of civilization, the thing that they consider the greatest threat is population. So when I traveled 12 and a half years ago to Zurich, Switzerland to talk about the fetal tissue transplant research and the super soldier program, which I had classified access to information because they tried to recruit me to the project that was going on at the VA hospital in UCLA in 1977. And since then, many different contacts. That people don't understand there's been hundreds of trillions of dollars spent on weird classified projects and inducting brilliant people, they're very creative, over many, many decades from all over the world to go into these projects. So they've made incredible progress. Some of the things they've done are purely devilish, and concerning others are ones that can transform health and get people that are sick or have brain injury and other things, a spinal cord injury, and make major inroads to literally reduce the cost of healthcare and reverse a lot of the suffering. But unfortunately, they have other plans. And after I did my talk, they gave me documents about the Special Virus Project, about the plasmid vaccine. That was the one to create the AIDS virus. The World Health Organization, the United Nations sponsored with the Rothschild help. The plasmid HCG vaccine to create antibodies to stop first trimester pregnancy. And the most concerning of all, of course, was the third project, is the resurrection of the 1918 swine flu. And to make a binary weapon that would involve avian as well as swine. And they've actually done it in stages where the avian flu emerged in 1997 with new genetics from the 1971 gene analysis at the University of Edinburgh World Health Organization reference lab. And they have now released, earlier this year, the swine flu. I call it swine 11 because it has the capacity to spread much faster than regular flu, although the first phase of it is called a herald phase. It was very mild, although it would hit atypically certain individuals. It's only been since late summer and early fall where it's starting to kill people that are otherwise extremely healthy and don't have high body mass index or other risk factors that would put them at high risk. The globalist intention is to primarily put in a control matrix over the entire planet first, rather than to reduce the population, at least in the first phases, because they don't want us to interfere with their survival for what they see as coming. And what they see as coming is a number of Earth changes and the transformation of technologies that literally could allow a select group of the population to live virtually biologically unlimited lives and to travel to the stars and interact with advanced civilizations.
So, Bill, what you're saying is they have an agenda. They know that we've made a lot of progress and that more population could live longer. And in essence, they've decided to roll out this flu
plague,
as well as a pandemic, as well as making the vaccine itself part of the...
Exactly, yeah. Both of them have an agenda. Both of them are bad.
But
Dr. Zygat showed exactly how they're going to do it. In fact, they followed literally to the letter how they were going to do it using the Oracle AI supercomputer software, taking gene fragments and rebuilding the virus de novo, and roll this out.
Have you seen a recent article from the UK, I believe it's The Sun, talking about the fact that they have been testing the swine flu in Ukraine and that they're now finding that it is a recombinant. It's mutated into what they call a single pneumonic plague. Have you seen
I'm not sure what that means. I'll tell you what, the World Health Organization was holding data. What I have so far is suggesting that some of the data that's come out suggests that what's called the D225, which is the amino acid and the receptor binding domain, has changed in 2 amino acid positions at least that are similar to the one in South Korea earlier this year and into Sao Paulo, Brazil, which are in clusters that were more lethal. What they're not releasing are the genes that are probably pretty significant that came out in research papers by Dr. Tumpe. His paper published in October just last month, and it indicated it's called the resurrection of the 1918 flu, and they actually did resurrect it and rebuild the virus in different gene, what they call biosimilars, which means that certain genes were missing so that they could study which genes were the lethal parts or cause certain types of biological action. They haven't published the information about the whole genome, so we don't know if there's one or more subtypes, or we call clades, C-L-A-D-E-S, clades of the virus. But it's obvious to me from what I can see that several things could have happened. And rather than jumping to what I call the conspiracy theory, the first is Ukraine has the most open market for antivirals in the world. And they've had a drug called Arbidol that's been developed by the Russians 30 years ago. They have other drugs that they can get relatively cheaply, including Tamiflu, Merlenza, etc. And when you take viruses and you expose them to these drugs, it's the same as when you overuse antibiotics. The virus, you prevent the Wally viruses from infecting people, so only the ones that are resistant to those drugs become the ambient viruses, and now the virus's evolution is pushed forward quickly. They discovered this in China in 1997, and when they start getting it infected in their chicken populations in the giant chicken farms in China, factory farms, and so they had to basically totally wall off the farm so that there was no interaction with the outside at all. Otherwise, they found every other measure, including giving high-dose amantadine and vaccinations. All of it did was speed the evolution of the virus. So the virus mutated to become totally resistant to amantadine and to anything else they tried.